Revealed, how not being invited to my sister's wedding led to an incredible transformation. Sarah sat at her cluttered desk, the glow of her computer screen illuminating a world that felt more distant each day. She scrolled through endless images of her sister Emily's impending wedding, glittering chandeliers, designer dresses, and heartfelt toasts. An invitation lay on a corner of her desk, unaddressed and untouched. The absence of a delicate envelope felt like much more than simple oversight. It was the final stroke in a portrait of inadequacy that had long haunted her. Was she really not important enough to be included in such a monumental moment? Each meticulously curated photo was a reminder of the flawless life Emily led. There she was, always deserving the accolades that Sarah had only ever admired from afar. The familiarity of those feelings surged up like bile, isolation amidst festivity, shadows dancing where light should be. For years, the steady hum of envy and self-doubt reverberated through Sarah's mind, dragging her self-worth deeper into the ground. In a family where achievements were awarded with the golden stamp of approval, Sarah felt like a mere spectator. But this time, something ignited within her. Instead of sinking into her sorrow, she turned towards her art, the only refuge that had ever made her feel seen. Sarah feverishly splashed colors on canvas, each stroke releasing pent-up emotions that had long festooned her heart. Confusion morphed into creation as she delved into a new realm of digital illustration, discovering a gift she never knew could exist within her. The pixels under her fingertips began to dance like shards of her own story. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her online presence began to swell, accolades piling up like the paint on her canvas. The thrill was addicting, but shadowed by an unsettling reality. Was this newfound success creating a deeper chasm between her and her family? When she faced Emily, there was tension, an unspoken weight hanging in the air. Misunderstandings morphed into accusations. Emily's sparkling world felt suffocating now, a glaring reminder of what Sarah could never achieve. The fight exploded, and wounds from a lifetime tore open, raw and festering. In the heat of an impending family dinner, moments of silence stretched thin. Sarah felt a push. As her heart raced, she could hear the pounding in her ears. Maybe it was time to reveal her journey, the invisible battles she had fought. Would her voice finally emerge from the shadows? Would her family see the layers behind her silence? The table was set with plates of generosity, but the air buzzed with unspoken resentment. She inhaled sharply, feeling the tension seep into her bones. With budding determination, she stood, ready to translate her pain into words. Sarah's assiduous transformation lay poised on the cusp of revelation, but the question loomed larger. Would her family embrace her truth, or would it deepen the rifts that her art tried to bridge? Each gaze around the table held a mirror to her unresolved anxieties, offering a heavy sense of doubt that both strengthened and threatened her burgeoning self. Sarah's voice trembled as it broke the suffocating silence. "I need to talk about something important," she declared, the words tasting foreign on her tongue. Each head turned, and she could feel their eyes assessing her, searching for vulnerabilities that they had long overlooked. The earnestness she wore felt almost naive against the rich backdrop of familial dysfunction. Emily's gaze flickered with a mixture of annoyance and curiosity, likely fueled by the memory of their last clash. Sarah squared her shoulders, unwilling to let the familiar pang of uncertainty hijack her confidence. The art she had created, the digital illustrations that had suddenly drawn a modestly growing audience, now felt like a tangible representation of her struggles, soaring and crashing like the turbulent emotions within her. "I know things have been strained between us," Sarah began, her voice steadier than she felt. "I've been hurt by the distance that seems to keep growing. I've felt invisible, like a ghost at a celebration I wasn't welcome to. But I want you to understand I've been working on something that has helped me find my voice. A sharp exhalation escaped Emily, cutting through the moment like a knife. You think art will fix everything? Will it bring you the recognition you crave? Her words stung, and Sarah felt the sharp pang of doubt return, but she pressed on. This isn't about recognition. It's about healing, she explained, tinged with urgency. Every stroke, every digital piece, has created a space for me to experiment with things I've always quietly feared. I'm not looking to compete with you. I'm just trying to reclaim parts of myself I thought were forever lost. The table, once vibrant with the energy of anticipation, felt stifled by an echoing void of misunderstanding. Her parents shifted uncomfortably in their seats, giving their daughters space to tackle an emotional storm. Sarah's determination crackled in the air, an energy she had never wielded against her family before. I need you to see me, truly see me. I've grown through my art, and I want to share that journey, my journey, with you. Not for validation, but for connection. Her heart raced, a mix of fear and liberation coursing through her as she unfolded the various pieces of art she had created. Scrolling through her tablet's gallery, she shared the raw depictions of her pain and triumph, openly revealing the vibrant hues of her hidden struggles. As she swiped through images, the tension was palpable. She paused, realizing they were starting to lean in, curiosity evident in their furrowed brows. Each piece is a part of my narrative. It's how I process not just my thoughts, but my existence in this family. In that moment, she caught Emily's eye, and for the first time, a flicker of understanding appeared, challenging the resentment that loomed thick between them. Did her sister now see her as more than the overlooked sibling? The atmosphere charged with possibility as Sarah fought against the familiar fear of rejection. Then, just as a glimmer of hope sparked, her mother intervened, voice laced with concern. But what about your career, Sarah? Isn't this a distraction? The question loomed heavy, inviting an additional wave of self-doubt to crash over her ambitions. Art is my career now, Sarah reaffirmed, determination mingling with vulnerability as she made a silent vow to stand her ground. I'm just beginning, and I need your support. What if success was possible? What if her family could embrace her truth? The fear of losing this connection tinged her thoughts, but it only spurred her closer toward the precipice of her own destiny. The air ran thick with possibility, but shadows lingered on the edges. As the conversation continued, Sarah sensed an underlying tension still tethering them. Facing her family felt like stepping onto a precipice, daring them to leap into the unknown alongside her. Would they take that leap? With lingering doubt, Sarah braced for whatever revelation awaited her, one that could either solidify the bonds they had or fracture them beyond repair. The moment of truth sat heavy in the air, a transformation poised to unfold. The room hung in a suffocating tension, an almost tangible weight pressing down on Sarah as she awaited their response. She felt exposed, a diver poised on the edge of a deep plunge, yet every moment of silence stretched unbearably long. What if this was the moment that could either bridge the gaps formed over years of isolation or deepen them further? Emily's lips thinned, an amalgamation of skepticism and curiosity etched across her features. So, you expect us to accept that this hobby is going to redefine everything? Art can't just erase years of being unseen. Each word sliced through Sarah like a well-aimed arrow, but rather than retreating, she stood firm against the onslaught. I don't expect it to erase anything, Sarah countered, her voice mirroring the resolve spreading through her. But it's a beginning. Can't you see that? It's more than just drawing to me, it's about harnessing the courage to be seen, to finally reach out and connect. Her parents exchanged furtive glances, their uncertainty palpable, yet Sarah felt a ripple of anger at their hesitance. She was not here to excuse herself or apologize for choosing an unconventional path. Instead, she was compelled to demonstrate that her art held substance, it reflected resilience, a fierce determination to reclaim her narrative. Every piece I create is a piece of my life, she pressed on, the urgency knitting itself tightly into her words. It captures moments of vulnerability, joy, and pain. I'm not doing this for recognition or validation. I'm doing it for me because I want to reclaim my voice. But with every proclamation, the old voices within her stirred. They echoed fears of inadequacy and doubt whispers that questioned her right to take this stage. Her pulse quickened, but instead of yielding to that familiar self-doubt, she utilized it. Feeling bold, she swiped through a piece that mirrored her internal conflict, a chaotic mix of wild brushstrokes and sharp lines, dark and disturbed hues mingling with vibrant splashes of color. This, she gestured significantly, this illustrates my ongoing struggle against despair. It's hard for me to articulate how fraught my heart has been. Maybe if I express that in my art, you might finally understand. Emily took a step forward, her posture shifting from defensive to contemplative. You think we don't understand? We know about your struggles, Sarah. We've seen them. The air stabilized as a deeper conversation threatened to break out. Proud yet pensive, Sarah raised her chin. Then stop treating me like I'm an afterthought, she pleaded, vulnerability cracking her voice. If I can't unearth the parts of myself that yearn to be free, how can you expect me to succeed? If you want to support me, allow me the grace to explore this path. She hesitated, vulnerability spiraling into the unfamiliar territory of hope as she waited for their response. Then, her mother cleared her throat again, the weight of family expectations hanging heavily in her gaze. It's not about not supporting you, but we're worried about what this means for your future. Sarah exhaled sharply, frustration coiling within her. What if this is my future? What if I become something amazing, something that requires the scars I've endured? A beat of quiet enveloped them, a mirror to the thrumming heartbeat of Sarah's resolve. The unknown stretched before her like an uncharted sea. She had spoken her truth. Now it was their turn to navigate the currents of acceptance, but their silence spoke volumes. Was their hesitation based on fear for her future, or fear of the unknown seeped in her newfound self-expression? As she searched their faces, the hope she had clung to began to flicker, the uncertainty of acceptance looming heavily in the air. Ultimately, Sarah realized that no matter the outcome, she had begun. Each word she articulated, each piece of art she shared, was a step towards self-definition, away from the confines of her past. Whether you choose to accept me or not, she said quietly, I will continue to create and grow. I hope one day you can join me on this journey. Yet even as she sought closure, the words remained unspoken. The consequence of familial expectations weighed heavily on her heart. Would she be forced to choose between her passion and her family? The tension rose once more as the question hung in the air, entwined with the unresolved emotions swirling around them. A new pivot in her journey awaited. The silence that followed Sarah's declaration wrapped around her like a thick fog, dragging at her confidence. The walls seemed to close in, occupying the spaces between the three of them as her mother finally glanced away, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features. Outwardly, Sarah appeared calm, but internally, a tempest raged. Doubt gnawed at her gut as her heart wrestled with the conflicting need for acceptance and the urgency of self-expression. Sarah, her mother began tentatively, still avoiding her gaze. It's just that we don't know how to support this path you've taken. Art is unpredictable. How do you plan to make a living? Those words felt like cold water splashed on her fire. Sarah's chest tightened, and for a fraction of a second, she faltered. She had always measured her self-worth against their expectations. Their confusion cut deeper than she'd anticipated. But as she glanced at the art surrounding her, vivid colors swirling with emotion, clarity awakened within her. I don't know yet, she admitted softly, gathering her resolve. But it's a risk I'm willing to take. I've spent so long conforming to everyone else's ideas of success. I need to define it for myself. Maybe art isn't about guaranteed income, but about a life worth living. Each word felt like an act of rebellion, a defiance against the well-worn paths typically applauded by her family. Rather than retreating further, she embraced this tension. The echoes of self-doubt were still there, but they no longer paralyzed her. Rather, they ignited the fire within. Emily, still processing, reached out to touch the nearest painting, tracing the texture with her fingers. Has it always been this intense? Her voice had softened, revealing a glimpse of curiosity behind the skepticism. Yes, Sarah whispered, her heart racing. I was terrified of expressing my true feelings. But through my art, I feel alive. It's cathartic. I'm beginning to understand myself in a way I never have before. She watched as Emily's brow furrowed, the front of skepticism giving way to contemplation. For so long, Sarah had internalized her family's expectations, but now she saw the opportunity to reclaim her narrative in a new way. With each stroke of the brush, she found her capability to communicate emotions she had hidden for too long. But this newfound clarity also stung. The realization of her parents' hesitation weighed heavily on her heart. Would they not see this as progress? Would they dismiss her courage as a mere whim? Sarah, it sounds like you're using art as an escape, Emily said carefully, her voice laced with concern. Are you sure this is the healthiest way to deal with what's happening inside? That struck at the core of Sarah's new self-understanding. She needed to confront this concern head-on or risk letting it tether her once again. It's not an escape, Emily. It's a confrontation. Every piece is me reflecting on my experiences, my struggles. I need to embrace all parts of myself, the good, the flawed. Sarah realized the vulnerability of standing firm. Every accusation, every doubt her family voiced was an invitation to solidify her stance, to unearth more about herself through the fire of critique. What if this isn't just about me? She continued, intensity rising in her voice. What if my journey can inspire someone else? I'm not asking for your validation. I'm asking for space to grow. Is that so wrong? Her parents exchanged a glance that was almost imperceptible, a shift occurring that Sarah had barely noticed. But then, their eyes returned to hers, clouded yet questioning. Frustration mingled with a new sense of urgency. You both taught me to pursue my passions. What if I fall? What if I fail? But what if I fly? Isn't that worth a try? Her voice trembled, laden with renewed determination. The path ahead was uncertain but illuminated by her resolve to grow, whether her family chose to traverse it alongside her or not. As the silence curled around them, a sliver of hope glimmered in Sarah's mind. Alongside the weight of familial expectations, the newfound reality faced her directly. Stepping away from their approval might be her most significant act of courage yet, but the thought of isolation lingered, the potential rift hanging before her insisted. Would her decision push them further away? The electric tension hung palpably, knotting in her stomach as she anticipated their reaction. Sarah's breath paused. The moment felt charged. The impact of this confrontation marked a turning point in her journey. Little did she know, the profound transformation of her artistic growth was only just beginning, and it could lead her deeper into uncharted territory. Would she find acceptance in her exploration, or would the shadows of her past continue to haunt her? As the silence trembled in the air, Sarah felt the weight of the moment settle on her shoulders like a heavy cloak. Her parents' eyes, a mix of concern and confusion, bore into her, and she was gripped by the fear of expulsion from their world. Yet, as the storm of doubt surged, she felt a flicker of resolve ignite in her core. Could she truly find her way forward without their approval? Sarah, her mother, finally broke the stillness, voice trembling. We want what's best for you. This is uncharted for us. The vulnerability in her mother's words trapped Sarah in an unexpected surge of compassion. This was not merely about her artistic ambition. It was a glimpse into her parents' struggle to understand a daughter whose dreams painted an unfamiliar horizon. Maybe it's uncharted for both of us, she countered slowly, crafting each word as if it were a brushstroke on a canvas. But it's also an opportunity for growth. For all of us. The acknowledgement in her voice invited curiosity rather than conflict. Her mother glanced at her father, who sat rigid, eyes narrowing as he processed this change. The mask of authority he often wore faltered slightly, revealing a glimmer of melancholic understanding. It was as if he recognized Sarah was forging a path beyond their expectations, a dangerous yet thrilling journey into independence. I understand you want to be an artist, but these words faltered on her father's lips. How will you provide for yourself? It's not just about talent. What about stability? The question hung in the air, tauntingly heavy. Sarah felt her heart race. In moments of uncertainty, All she'd ever known was the formula for security education, a steady job, a traditional life. But she had proactively seized the brush to paint a different fate. "Stability doesn't only mean a paycheck," she replied, her voice tinged with newfound confidence. "It's about inner peace, the freedom to create, to express what I feel. What if the path I take leads to a different kind of stability?" Her words evoked a flash of recognition in her parents. They had built lives around traditional landscapes, but perhaps, just perhaps, there was room for a different vision. Sarah's gaze wandered back to her art, bright and vivid, a chaotic expression of her internal battles. "Have faith in me," she continued. A sense of urgency coursed through her. This conversation was almost sacred. "Just as you took leaps of faith when you started your careers, I want you to know that I am taking one now. I'm willing to put myself out there, even if I falter. It's worth the risk. You've always taught me to dream, let me dream this way too." Her mother let out a shaky breath, and Sarah sensed a change. The tender, almost fearful understanding unfurled like a flower blossoming in their midst. "They may not understand right away," Emily chimed in, her voice laced with unexpected support. "But by standing in your truth, you might inspire them to see art differently." There was a bravery in Emily's words that wrapped around Sarah like a warm embrace. Yet, even as hope flickered, a shadow of doubt gnawed at her edges. How would she navigate the inevitable struggles? Every artist faced rejection, criticism, and moments of despair. Was she truly ready to confront these fears, or was this moment of clarity just another facade? Suddenly, a torrent of visions flooded her mind. Art shows, workshops, connecting with others who felt trapped within their own expectations. She could instantiate all that. It felt liberating yet terrifying, exposing the raw and beautiful risk of vulnerability. "Do you think I might be good enough to, I don't know, showcase my work somewhere?" she asked, attempting to gauge her own ambition. Could I really dare to dream of more? As the words left her lips, Sarah's resolve solidified. She needed to confront the reality awaiting her outside the safety of familial support. Even if her family remained tentative, she could take matters into her own hands. Art could be her lifeline, her source of understanding, her means of connecting with others who longed for authenticity. But just as the flame of determination began to roar, uncertainty draped over her like a heavy fog. With every step into the unknown, what precarious friendships or enemies awaited her? The worry hinted at a dark labyrinth of self-discovery that loomed ahead. As the weight of her resolve surged within her, she realized she was standing on the precipice of an exhilarating yet daunting transformation. Would she have the courage to embrace this journey toward her true self, or would the shadows of her doubts extinguish the illuminating fire she had finally ignited? The moment was pregnant with promise, and as tension crackled in the air, Sarah braced herself for what lay ahead, the time to face not just her family, but the world that awaited her, uncertain yet filled with infinite possibilities. Would she find her narrative in the chaos or drift away from her aspirations once more? Standing on the edge of something vast and unknown, Sarah felt her pulse quicken, her breaths growing shallow. Her father's silence still rang in her ears, an echo tainted with concern. In that moment, she realized that it wasn't just a choice about a career, it was the crux of her identity. As she stepped away from her parents, the distance felt both liberating and isolating. She wandered through her home, past the family photos and the carefully curated decor, relics of a life constructed on tangible success. Yet, it was those very walls that now felt confining, a closed narrative that no longer encapsulated her evolving sense of self. She sank onto her bed, the familiar surroundings starting to feel foreign. The weight of expectation hung in the air like a thick fog, one she desperately wanted to disperse. Would her hands ever blend colors as seamlessly as her parents blended their dreams into reality? She couldn't shake the thought that the world outside would be unforgiving of her ambition. But beneath the trepidation lay a burgeoning aspiration, powerful and vivid. It was time to lay a plan. Sarah reached for her sketchbook, open and waiting, its blank pages a promise of creation. With each stroke of her pencil against the paper, she wove her intentions. She envisioned dropping the safety net that had been crafted around her since childhood, a net woven from societal norms, peer expectations, and familial pressures. What if she took it upon herself to leap into artistry with both feet, to uncover her true narrative? Exhibitions, she mumbled to herself. Workshops. The words danced off her tongue, igniting her energy. Those were her steps forward, precise, actionable moves in a world that had felt daunting just moments before. Yet, a tightening in her chest whispered of the naysayers she would inevitably encounter, the very shadows that leered from the corners of her mind. As she sketched out her ideas, she envisioned reaching out to local galleries, submitting her work for review, and potentially collaborating with artists who shared her ethos. Each image she drew was layered with the hope and excitement of potential connections, ignited by the idea of community while still feeling secluded in her uncertainty. But would she have the courage to send those emails or walk through those gallery doors? What if the feedback was brutal? Beyond her anxiety lay an opportunity for personal evolution, a quest for constructive criticism that could reshape her art, her vision, and indeed, herself. Of course, she would face obstacles. A sudden rush of memories unfolded in her mind, each rejection letter from art shows, the times she hesitated before hitting send on her portfolio submissions. The certainty of her parents' expectations clashed violently with the uncertainty of her dreams. But what if I do get rejected? What if my art isn't good enough? She questioned aloud, a stubborn disbelief creeping into her psyche. It sunk its claws into her resolve and twisted into a persisting fear, the fear of embarrassment. Yet amid that fear, something powerful emerged, an inner voice steadying her storm. You can redefine your narrative, Sarah. You can rise. All great artists have faced rejection. It's part of the journey. This small whisper grew louder, more assertive, until it was an anthem in her soul. She began developing a mantra, connecting with her inner strength every time she felt it waver. Fear began to transform into motivation, gradually moving her from hesitation to action. Time slipped by unnoticed as she poured her ambition onto the pages, sketching not just figures but potential futures, tentative, yet breathtakingly possible. Yet, even as ideas flourished, doubt lingered, wrapping around her like a vine. What if her transformation was more breathtaking in her mind than in reality? As the evening light faded into twilight outside her window, a voyeuristic world beckoned. In that moment, a strong resolve simmered within her as she realized that the time had come for her to transform her fears into stepping stones, an evolution that would not only reveal her inner artist, but also challenge every strand of expectation woven around her. And just like that, her phone chimed a notification she wasn't expecting. The anticipation was almost suffocating as she glanced at the screen, a message from Emily aimed straight into the heart of her vulnerability. Hey Sarah, could you come by later? I came across something I think might really inspire you. A rush of emotions flooded through her. What could this mean? Was it the nudge she needed to propel her into the next phase of her artistic journey, or another detour around her doubts? The pulsing intrigue of the unknown danced in the back of her mind, compelling her forward as she prepared for whatever revelation awaited her. As Sarah made her way to Emily's apartment, the city lights flickered like distant stars, igniting a spark of excitement mingled with anticipation within her. Each step felt heavier and lighter, a paradox of purpose and uncertainty fueling her movement. What could be so compelling that it could inspire her? Her breath quickened, not from exertion but from the bubbling anxiety of what awaited her. Arriving at the building, she hesitated at the entrance. She could feel the familiar weight of inadequacy creeping back in, a feathery whisper that suggested she wouldn't be enough. Whatever Emily had found would probably exceed her expectations. She took a deep breath, employing the mantra that had taken root in her mind. You can rise, Sarah. Clenching her fists, she stepped inside. Emily greeted her with an enthusiastic hug, instantly dissolving some of Sarah's self-doubt. I've been waiting for you. You'll love this. With that, Emily pulled her towards a cluttered workspace, decorated with an eclectic mix of canvases, paint tubes, and brushes strewn across the table. In the center lay an art book, its cover worn but its pages vibrant with creative energy. What is it? Sarah asked, her curiosity piqued. She flicked through the pages, each turn revealing stunning visuals and stories of artists who overcame profound personal challenges. A wave of inspiration washed over her, flooding her with the realization that her path could mirror theirs. They had carved their identities out of adversity. "This is my cousin's project," Emily explained. She's compiling stories from artists who faced rejection and failure. The theme is transformation through adversity. An echo of her own experience resonated within Sarah. She had only focused on the fear of rejection, never considering the beauty that could emerge from struggle. The truth of each artist's journey lingered in the air, igniting a new fire within her. The piece she envisioned was less about perfect execution and more about authenticity, a raw display of who she was, insecurities and all. "I want to be part of this," Sarah blurted out before she had time to second-guess herself. The gravity of her words didn't settle in until they hung in the space like a physical entity, tangible and demanding to be acknowledged. "Are you sure?" Emily raised an eyebrow, sensing the weight of this declaration. "It could be intense emotionally. I'm tired of hiding. I need to confront my fears. I'm ready for this." The conviction in her own voice surprised her, igniting an energy she hadn't fully realized she possessed. Back at home later that night, as she settled into familiar surroundings, her reflection in the mirror seemed different. The barriers she had built were beginning to crumble, exposing the raw and real emotions harbored beneath the surface. Her sketchbook lay open on her bed, and instead of structuring her art through the lens of fear, she began to sketch from a place of honesty, a self-portrait unfiltered by the weight of external expectations. Each line she drew whispered possibilities, urging her to transcend the confines of her upbringing. The palette of colors transformed into a representation of resilience, a testament to her journey rather than an exhibition of perfection. For the first time, she allowed herself to embrace the chaos of creation. Yet, as dawn approached, doubt re-entered her mind. Would her story hold weight to others? Could she expose her vulnerabilities without judgment? The fear of embarrassment nagged at her once more, but it was now tempered by the sound of her new mantra: "You are worthy, Sarah. Your art is a journey, not a destination." The resolve deepened as she realized that she was not just creating a piece for others. She was rediscovering herself with each brushstroke, unfolding layers of self that had long been muted. Yet, a new question surfaced. Would she have the courage to share her truth publicly, to unveil her very soul to an audience? Just then, her phone buzzed again, a notification that pulled her from her introspection. It was a message from an unknown number, stirring a swirl of apprehension and curiosity. "Are you interested in showcasing your work at our gallery next month? I saw your sketches and felt compelled to reach out." This opportunity felt monumental, the kind she had always envisioned but seldom believed she could attain. The pounding of her heart echoed in the silence, both exhilarating and terrifying. Would she step into this new spotlight or retreat back into the shadows? As she stared at the message, the weight of her impending choice hovered, demanding her attention and igniting a fervent hope for the transformation that lay ahead. The morning light streamed through Sarah's window, warm yet insistent, nudging her from sleep. As she rubbed the remnants of dreams from her eyes, the weight of the previous night's revelation settled heavily over her. The itch of uncertainty coiled within her, a constricting loop of anxiety mixed with hope, questioning her readiness to take the leap into the public arena. She turned her attention to her sketchbook, its pages brimming with raw lines and expressive colors. Each stroke now felt like a declaration of intent, not merely a representation of her internal world, but an invitation for others to see her, flaws and all. The idea of vulnerability began to shift from dread to empowerment, yet the impending decision hung overhead like a cloud ready to unleash a storm. In an effort to quell her swirling thoughts, Sarah decided to focus on her next steps. She quickly prepared a breakfast of toast and fruit, the mundane act serving as a grounding ritual. However, as she nibbled on a piece of apple, her mind replayed the message. The gallery opportunity loomed large, beckoning her yet teasing her fears about inadequacy and exposure. What if it's not enough? She muttered to herself, the voice of doubt creeping back in. She set her half-eaten apple down, confronting the unsettling feeling gnawing at her. But what if it is enough? The conflicting thoughts wrestled fiercely, a battle between the habitual struggle of self-judgment and the desire to embrace her authentic self. Inspired by flickers of determination, she pulled her sketchbook across the table, browsed through her recent work, and began a new piece. This time, she was intentional. She focused on the tangled emotions swirling within her, the dread of judgment, the longing for acceptance, the promise of evolution. Every pencil stroke was an exploration of her innermost fears and aspirations, a tapestry interwoven with light and dark. Realization washed over her as the image started to take form. She was not merely creating art, but a blueprint of her narrative. Each line captured the essence of her experience, from moments of doubt to flashes of clarity. In a sudden burst of confidence, she began to contemplate her approach to the showcasing, a daunting task that resonated deeply as both a challenge and an opportunity for growth. She envisioned transforming her fears into a motivational piece, one that could inspire others to confront their vulnerabilities. That afternoon, she gathered her courage and reached out to Emily, seeking guidance on how to navigate this new territory. Emily's supportive voice over the phone was a grounding force, easing Sarah's worries and solidifying her resolve. "You're ready for this, Sarah. Just be true to yourself. That's the most important part." Later that night, with Emily's words echoing in her ears, Sarah sat before her blank canvas, fully aware of the transformative journey she was embarking upon. She blended her colors, each spectrum mirroring the tumultuous emotions she was now exploring in earnest. The night deepened, and with it came a sense of release. She was shedding layers of fear, allowing herself to be seen in a world that often hid behind facades. Yet, as she stepped back to admire the burgeoning piece before her, a new sense of discomfort twinged at the edges of her euphoria. This new vulnerability was exhilarating but terrifying. The question loomed large: was she truly ready to reveal herself, her narrative, to the world? Just then, her phone pinged again, a message from the gallery, asking for a preview of her work. Excitement mixed with dread coursed through her veins. Could she truly uncover her story, revealing the parts of herself she had kept hidden? The urgency to finalize her piece clashed with the fear of exposure that threatened to encase her once again. In this moment, two paths lay before her: the safety of silence or the risk of authenticity. As she stared at the glowing screen, her resolve started to waver with the pulse of realization. Was she ready to confront not only the world, but the very essence of her? Truth? As dawn broke, Sarah sank back into routine, the remnants of last night's chaos lingering like shadows in her mind. The shadows whispered doubts, but she found strength in the clarity she had experienced while painting. Each hue represented a piece of her truth. Every stroke was a step toward authenticity. Yet, the thought of sending a preview to the gallery gnawed at her confidence. What if they didn't see the value in her vision? What if her vulnerability was met with indifference? She busied herself with breakfast again, making sure to keep the contemplation at bay. As she poured her coffee, the steady drip of the brew mirrored the ticking clock of her deadline. The gallery had requested her preview by noon, leaving her just hours to finalize her work. Though pressure mounted, she recognized that this moment held potential. Apart from fearing failure, she realized she was faced with the prospect of transformation. Returning to her canvas, Sarah squinted at her creation. It didn't feel finished. It felt like a reflection of her hesitation. She reached for her brushes, deciding to infuse her piece with ferocity. The layers that emerged echoed her most profound struggles, the echoes of her sister's triumphant life, the weight of comparison that had suffocated her ambition for so long, and the yearning for validation that had driven her to the precipice of self-doubt. As she worked, the colors began to unify, creating a chaotic symphony. Clashing blues, passionate reds, and deep blacks danced together, forming a tumultuous sky. Each layer she applied was a conscious choice to tear down the barriers of inadequacy that had held her captive. What would I want to see if I were the viewer? She asked herself, challenging her fears. She envisioned her audience in front of the canvas, strangers, skeptics, and perhaps even peers who had once ridiculed her. By mid-morning, her heart raced. Could the gallery's attendees really resonate with her inner turmoil? As she envisioned them standing there, contemplating her work, she felt the quiet resolve brewing within her. What if her piece could connect with someone who had similarly shrouded their struggles, someone who had hidden behind a mask, just like she once did? Determined to push through the wave of insecurity, Sarah paused. She considered a bold title for her work, something that might invite conversation and reflection. After a moment, she jotted down visibility, the art of confronting fear. It encapsulated everything she needed to express the exhilaration, vulnerability, and strength of revealing one's true self. Choosing this title felt like a psychic shift. It wasn't merely an emotional release, but a statement of intent. With her canvas now bursting with expression, Sarah's confidence swelled. It was not simply about showcasing her art, but about laying bare a narrative that could elicit understanding and empathy. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for her phone. The moment had arrived. She selected her best angles, capturing the vivid details of her work. Her finger hovered over the send button. It was symbolic, an acknowledgement of her journey toward courage, a decisive move from the cocoon of self-doubt to the expansive possibility of acceptance. But a sharp pang of anxiety coursed through her. What if her effort amounted to nothing? The internal strains of self-doubt clawed at her resolve. Just as she was about to hit send, Emily's encouraging voice flared back to life in her mind. "You're ready for this, Sarah." Those words became a tether, grounding her wavering spirit amid her swirling thoughts. With a deep breath, she pressed send, the notification confirming her submission, momentarily lifting the weight from her shoulders. But as that relief washed over her, she was struck by another deep realization. This was only the beginning of a much larger journey unfolding before her. Suddenly, her phone buzzed again, this time with a notification unrelated to the gallery. It was a group message from family, inviting her to her sister's wedding, a day of celebration, a moment she had been both anticipating and dreading. Would she finally confront the jealousy that had festered, or would she flee into silence once again? The stakes had never been higher. The moment of confrontation loomed, just as large as the unveiling of her art. Would she stand up for herself in both arenas? Would she embrace her choice of vulnerability both within the canvas and beyond? As her heart sank at the thought, the question echoed in her mind. Could art and family truly coexist, or would she find herself torn between the two? As the day of the wedding approached, Sarah found herself oscillating between anticipation and dread. The looming acknowledgement of her invitation felt weighty, amplifying her burgeoning resolve towards self-actualization. Each morning was greeted with fresh determination. She would not be defined by her past, but rather embrace all parts of her story, both the brilliant colors and shadowy hues. The night before the wedding, Sarah turned to her sketchbook, filling it with sketches conveying her journey. Each line reflected strength, each splash of color echoed resilience. Her artwork had allowed her to confront herself fiercely. Now it would serve as a testament to her evolution, a reflection of both her struggles and triumphs. She understood that her art mirrored the courage she wished to furnish in her family dynamics, a willingness to face her truths head-on, inviting others to do the same. On the morning of the wedding, the air was electric with festivity. Sarah donned her attire with purpose, a blend of her favorite hues that embodied both confidence and vulnerability. She noticed an intentional shift in herself, an inner glow fueled not by perfectionism, but fueled by authenticity. Finally, she understood that vulnerability wasn't a weakness, but an affirmation of her humanity. On this day, she wouldn't just be the overlooked sister, she would be an artist, a storyteller prepared to unveil her heart. As she arrived at the venue, Sarah's heart raced at the sight of her family, their laughter ringing loud and joyous. Yet, amidst that warmth lay the familiar undertone of insecurities. The decorative splendor surrounding her only heightened her resolve to assert herself, to engage with the world around her rather than to stand aside. No longer would she be the ghost drifting through the grandeur. Today she would assert her presence, Gathered with her family over a catered meal, she felt the urge to share her journey. When the moment seemed ripe, she took a deep breath and stood, her pulse quickening. "Can I have everyone's attention?" The clinking of cutlery ceased. Heads turned toward her, curiosity etched across their faces. "I've realized something important," she began. "This wedding is wonderful, but it reminds me of all the ways I've felt unseen, overlooked in a life that seems so polished and perfected." As she spoke, she witnessed a ripple of recognition and sensitivity surge through her family. They could sense her vulnerability, her authenticity. "In these last few months, I've harnessed the gift of my art to help process my feelings. It has been a journey of discovery, and I want to share it with you all, not as a plea for validation, but as an invitation for connection." Each revelation brought nods from her family, the tension uncoiling slowly. With newfound confidence, she divulged her aspirations for showcasing her artworks and how they were integral to her identity. Her heart swelled as she spoke each word, affirming her evolving self rather than desperately seeking approval. "My latest pieces focus on the complexity of humanity, fear, struggle, and triumph," she explained passionately. "I hope to inspire others to embrace their journeys." The sincerity in her voice hung in the air like a breathtaking crescendo. Faces softened, with empathy flowing perceptibly. Sarah's father leaned forward, his expression transforming from skepticism to profound understanding. "You are braver than I ever knew," he said, voice thick with emotion. "Your art is not just a hobby. It's a part of who you are, and it's beautiful." In that moment, acceptance cascaded through the conversation, dismantling the barriers that had long distanced Sarah from her family. They asked questions, expressed curiosity about her work, and engaged with her artistically. By the end of the meal, they had set a foundation for support. Each member of the family, once a source of doubt, now radiated understanding and pride in her transformation. As the day progressed, Sarah felt reborn. The discomfort and shadows that had once held her back found clarity in connection and support. Every piece of artwork she had created represented a milestone she had achieved. Her parents' acceptance felt like the blank canvas onto which she could depict a vibrant future. In the wedding's warm embrace, Sarah reveled in her own transformation. The rifts that once threatened to drown her had become pathways for growth. She finally stood tall, proud of both her journey and her commitment to herself. As the dance floor filled with laughter and love, Sarah felt incredibly human, alive, and finally free, her resolve clear and sturdy. She decided this was the beginning of myriad expressions yet to be unveiled. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories that can inspire your journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support truly makes a difference. Comment your reactions and theories about this transformative ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the vital importance of supporting the channel through these actions.